The American dream often hides a dark truth. This truth exists behind the tall gates of wealth. It lives in the shadow of privilege. Our story starts with Lagos, Nigeria. The poverty there is extreme. It forces difficult choices. It pushes people toward the unthinkable. Aisha was one of those people. She was desperate. She was a mother who needed to feed her children. So she traveled across an ocean. She took a job far from home. She became a maid in America. Her employer was a white woman named Caroline. Caroline lived in the UK, but she was American. Caroline seemed generous at first. She was wealthy. She offered Aisha a lifeline. But that lifeline quickly turned into a noose. The cruelty was quiet. It was often unseen. It happened in a beautiful house in London. This house was worth millions. Aisha worked endless hours. She was paid almost nothing. The money was held back. It was always called a debt. This debt grew larger every week. But the biggest shocking fact is this. The debt started at only $40. That is $40. This is what broke Aisha. It is what fueled Caroline's abuse. The truth behind this $40 will shock you. It shows a deep, often unseen conflict. It reveals a broken system. I'll explain why in a moment. The biggest revelation is Aisha's survival. Her spirit refused to break. She found a way out. She faced absolute power. She won. Let me show you exactly how this happened. We will see how a debt of $40 led to months of psychological abuse. Story matters to you. It shows what happens when power is completely unbalanced. It happens everywhere. It happens in the UK, the US, and the Middle East. Aisha's story is a global warning. Aisha and Caroline met in Lagos. Aisha was struggling. Her small business failed. Her children needed school fees. Caroline was on a charity trip. She was looking for cheap help. Caroline made a big promise. She offered a new life. She promised a good salary. Aisha believed her. She saw hope for her children. Aisha signed a contract. It was complex. It was written only in English. Aisha did not understand every line. This contract was the first trap. It locked her into the job. It controlled her movement. I'll explain why the contract was a trap in a moment. Aisha moved to London. She arrived at Caroline's huge, silent house. Caroline was a socialite. She often hosted parties. Caroline was always smiling in public. She gave to many charities. But behind closed doors, things changed fast. Aisha's day began before dawn. She cooked. She cleaned. She looked after Caroline's 2 expensive dogs. She worked until midnight. Caroline often found fault. The silver was not shiny enough. The floor was not clean enough. The fault-finding was constant. This was the first layer of abuse. It was about control. Aisha was promised $800 a month. That is a basic wage. It is not much in London, but it was a fortune back in Nigeria. After the first week, Aisha asked for her salary. Caroline smiled coldly. She said, "You already owe me." This was the first shock. This tiny debt was the key. It was the lever. It gave Caroline all the power. Aisha was trapped in a foreign country. She had no friends. She had no idea how the system worked. She was completely isolated. Now here's where things get really interesting. The most accessible wow is the scale of the control. Caroline was not just an unfair boss. She was a warden. Aisha was effectively an indentured servant. She was trapped by paperwork and fear. Caroline knew the system. She understood the visa laws. She took Aisha's passport. This is a common tactic. She said it was for safekeeping. This move crippled Aisha. Without a passport, Aisha could not move. She could not travel. She could not ask for help. She could not leave the house. Caroline's control was absolute. She locked the front gate at night. She installed cameras inside the house. She watched Aisha all day. She often checked the dust levels with a white glove. This constant surveillance was crushing. It was a quiet kind of torture. Aisha's salary was now tied to the $40 debt. Caroline kept adding new fees to the list. A broken vase cost $100. A spilled coffee cost $50. She even charged Aisha for the water she drank. The list grew longer every day. The initial $40 debt ballooned fast. It quickly reached thousands of dollars. Aisha worked harder. She worked faster. She hoped to pay off the debt, but it was impossible. Every time she finished a task, Caroline found a new fee. This became her daily reality. She worked for free. She worked to survive. This is the ultimate lesson for the viewer. Control of information and money is control of life. Caroline also used emotional abuse. She mocked Aisha's accent. She made fun of her culture. She told Aisha she was lucky to be in the UK. She said Aisha was a failure back home. This constant verbal attack eroded Aisha's spirit. It made her feel worthless. Aisha had to be strong for her children back home. Caroline did not let Aisha use the house phone. She controlled the internet. Aisha could only call her children once a week. The call was always supervised. This broke Aisha's heart. She missed her babies terribly. She felt like a failure. Past bias suggests people like Aisha are disposable. Aisha realized the truth. The $40 debt was never real. It was a tool. It was a weapon of control. Caroline did not care about the money. She only cared about the power. She wanted a slave. She wanted total submission. If you compare this to your daily struggles in the US or UK, this fight seems huge. You have a safety net. Aisha had a prison. She had no one to turn to. She had no government support in the UK. But if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this. The next major revelation is the hidden mechanism of her survival. Survival was not about fighting back yet. It was about gathering evidence. This is where Aisha worked smart. Aisha was isolated. But she was not stupid. She started to realize she needed proof. She knew no one would believe her word against a wealthy, famous American socialite. She had no phone access. She found a discarded broken tablet. Caroline thought it was junk. Aisha hid it under her mattress. At night, after working 18 hours, Aisha would try to fix it. This was her secret weapon. She managed to get the tablet working for short bursts. She used the house Wi-Fi when Caroline was sleeping. She took quick, shaky photos. She captured the fee lists. She documented the locked gates. She recorded the times she was forced to work. This was dangerous. If Caroline caught her, it would be over. She layered her facts like she layered her work. Simple proof first, then added detail. She started writing a secret diary. She hid it inside an old book. In this diary, she recorded every cruel word. She wrote down every extra charge. She documented the dates of her 1-minute phone calls home. This was the more complex mechanism of her survival. It wasn't just working hard. It was working smart. It was building a case. I'll explain why this secret schedule made her invisible to Caroline in a moment. Caroline thought Aisha was completely broken. She thought Aisha was just a dull maid. She underestimated her entirely. This underestimation was Caroline's biggest mistake. Aisha's quiet demeanor was her shield. It hid her rebellion. Aisha found a small local Nigerian church online. She knew she could not go, but she found a contact email. This was her breakthrough. She had to send the evidence. This was a huge risk. One night, Caroline was hosting a huge charity gala. The house was full of wealthy guests. The cameras were focused on the party. Aisha saw her chance. She quickly plugged the tablet into the main computer. She transferred the files. She sent the email to the church. It was only one line. "I am being held here. Help me." The evidence was attached. The whole process took only 2 minutes. It was terrifying. The church received the email. They did not dismiss it. They saw the evidence. They contacted a local nonprofit. This organization specialized in modern slavery cases. An insider perspective here is important. Many domestic workers in the UK are trapped by debt bondage. The legal system is often slow. The rich can hire expensive lawyers. The poor are forgotten. But Aisha's clear evidence changed the game. It forced the nonprofit to act fast. Her meticulous record-keeping was the key. The work was never-ending. She went back to serving drinks. She cleaned up late that night. She acted normal. No one suspected a thing. She was a silent warrior. The greatest challenge was the wait. Days passed. Then weeks. She started to think no one saw her email. The stress was immense. She continued to face Caroline's cruelty every day. She learned to manage extreme pressure. She was mastering the hustle of silence. But if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this. Her hidden evidence led directly to the front gate. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all. The climax is a sudden, high-stakes raid. It happened 3 months after Aisha sent the email. Aisha was cleaning the downstairs library. It was a rainy afternoon. The house was quiet. Caroline was out shopping for designer clothes. Suddenly, the front gate alarm sounded. It did not sound like a usual visitor. 2 police cars pulled up. They were followed by a plain white van. The nonprofit workers were there too. The police had a warrant. They forced their way into the house. They were looking for Aisha. A police officer found Aisha in the library. He spoke softly. He said, "Are you Aisha? You are safe now." Aisha broke down. She was shaking. She could not believe it. The long, silent fight was over. The police quickly secured the house. They found her passport. It was locked in Caroline's office safe. They found the secret list of charges. The charges totaled over $5,000. The initial $40 debt had snowballed into a huge figure. This was proof of debt bondage. Caroline arrived home 1 hour later. She was carrying expensive shopping bags. She saw the police cars. She saw the social workers. She saw Aisha standing free. She was furious. She started shouting immediately. She screamed at the police. She demanded they leave her private property. The police ignored her. They had the evidence. They showed her the list of charges. They showed her Aisha's documented work hours. The evidence was plain and precise. The system that was meant to protect Caroline, her wealth, and her privilege, was now used against her. The reframing of the story was immediate. The $40 debt was not a debt. It was a false foundation of power. Caroline's greatest defense was her social standing. Aisha's greatest weapon was her secret diary. Aisha connected all the dots. The abandonment was her low point. Her secret documentation was her triumph. Her courage was the ultimate winning move. Caroline was arrested right there on the spot. She was charged with holding a person in servitude. It was a high-stakes, dramatic moment. She was humiliated. But wait, the biggest implication is what her arrest means for other women. So what does all this mean for us today? Aisha's story matters now for every global viewer. It shows that modern slavery is not a problem in distant lands. It happens behind the quiet, expensive doors of London and New York. It happens in the UK, the US, and Canada. The short-term consequence was Aisha's freedom. The nonprofit gave her shelter. They helped her get a proper, legal work permit. She started getting mental health support. She finally called her children without supervision. Her long-term consequence is her voice. Aisha testified against Caroline. Her courage led to a conviction. Caroline was found guilty. She was fined heavily. This court case sent a clear message. Wealth cannot buy freedom from the law. This is a lesson in unseen privilege. We often assume the law protects everyone. Aisha's story shows that systems of power can be abused. We must look closer at the service industries. We must question the silence. A simple prediction is that Aisha will become an advocate. She will help other domestic workers. She will break the cycle of fear. Her story changed the system from the inside out. I'll explain why in a moment. That Caroline's actions were not just about greed. They were about control and social status. Caroline used the servant to project an image of effortless perfection. Her wealth was not enough. She needed total dominance. Aisha's personal takeaway is simple. Documentation is power. Her success was not due to luck. It was due to her disciplined, hidden work. Her secret diary became her ultimate legal evidence. This is an inspiration we can all take. Past bias often suggests that the word of a wealthy person outweighs the word of a poor person. Aisha fought this battle with a broken tablet and a hidden notebook. She used the only tools she had. She layered her information. Simple abuse, added detail of the debt, then the context of the slavery system. The tension remains. The problem is not gone. Other Carolines are still out there. They still exploit workers. But they know they can be caught. Aisha's victory created a powerful blueprint for survival. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. The final unexpected twist is what happened to the $40 coat. Caroline was required to pay compensation to Aisha. This money was meant to cover her unpaid wages. But the small coat was part of the police evidence. Aisha never wanted the coat. It represented her bondage. The nonprofit organized a small private ceremony. They handed Aisha her first real paycheck. It was the amount of her unpaid work. Then they brought out the coat. Aisha looked at it. It was a symbol of her prison. Aisha did not bone it. She did not throw it away. She kept it. She later donated it to a museum exhibit. This exhibit was about modern slavery. She turned the symbol of her abuse into a teaching tool. This was her ultimate act of defiance. We started this story talking about a $40 debt. We thought it was about money. The emotional close of the story loop is this. The $40 debt was never the cost of the coat. It was the alleged price of a woman's freedom. Aisha's real inheritance was not the money, it was her unbroken spirit. She left behind a woman who refused to surrender. This story is a powerful reminder. Crisis can be a weapon. Abuse can be a forge. Aisha took the worst possible situation and created a global warning. Her life is a living lesson. You can always fight back. You can always document the truth. You can always define your own worth. If this opened your eyes to the shadow world of domestic servitude, you're not alone. So what did Aisha teach us? First, your quiet documentation is your greatest defense. Second, the cost of human freedom is not $40. It is everything. Third, true strength is not fighting. It is surviving long enough to get the evidence. If you were inspired by Aisha's refusal to quit, hit the subscribe button. We explore powerful true stories like this every week. We look at the hidden mechanics behind global issues. Finally, I want to hear from you. Have you ever witnessed or overcome an extreme imbalance of power? Tell us your story in the comments below. Your perspectives might be the focus of our next video. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.